So, as you know, I don't normally do breaking news, but this horrendous tax bill that the Republicans are trying to pass in the dead of night really needs everyone's attention. So, I wanted to get you some information straight from the source. I'm just going to have a quick conversation with Katherine Clark, the Democratic Minority Whip of the House, to give you a sense of what's really going on behind the scenes. I'm sure you didn't get much sleep considering the Republicans chose to be in session at 1 a.m. last night. What
Yeah,
is going on?
nothing says pride of authorship like having your hearing on this bill at 1 a.m. And I can see from the monitor here, it is still going on. And Democrats have filed 587 amendments, and we are going to talk on all of them. If you want to have a hearing, we'll give you a hearing.
Oh my God, Catherine, honestly, listen, this is bananas what's happening here in our nation's capital. I just want people to understand that if you don't know what Catherine's talking about, the Republicans are working urgently. Like I said, at 1 a.m. is when they started, when people are not paying attention, to get this bill, this tax bill, sycophantically called the One Big Beautiful Bill, passed to please the president and his donors with seemingly no thought for the American people. And so people don't know, this bill is centered around extending the 2017 tax cuts that Trump gave the ultra rich and giant corporations, while adding new tax breaks for that same group, as well as adding to the defense budget and immigration and ICE, while taking from regular Americans. Do you want to
That's
expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, and you nailed it. The only thing you left off is that it also increases the deficit. So it's
Right.
also a nice parting credit card gift to the future to say you too can partake in paying for this. But you hit the nail on the head, Lee. This is all about taking healthcare away from the American people. Nearly 14 million people, these are seniors, kids, women, are going to lose their health care. And I mean, there's so many outrageous things in this bill, but the other major one are food programs. Food programs, over $300 billion out of food programs, Meals
Yeah.
on Wheels, school lunches, the SNAP program. And all of it for what? It is to have these tax cuts. We're beyond just benefiting the top 1%. This is really aimed at the 0.1 top percent. And working families are just the ones who are going to pay for this when we already see a new study out that says 60%, the majority of families in this country, are not making it. They cannot afford the most basic things around housing, groceries, childcare that they need to survive. And this is their answer, that you take
Yeah.
away their
Well, I
health
mean,
care and food.
Catherine, this is what Donald Trump ran on. I'm going to make everything cheaper. I'm going to make it better for you. You're struggling. I'm going to help you. And what they're doing is the polar opposite. And we need people to understand that this is what the entire Republican Party is doing. That, as you were mentioning, the Congressional Budget Office has warned the country that this plan that they're putting through is going to increase the federal deficit by almost $4 trillion
Right.
while cutting Medicaid, SNAP benefits, Meals on Wheels, food assistance for our very poorest citizens. But I think we should also add what you were mentioning, right? It's also, this bill includes all these crazy other line items, like
Right.
including legalizing gun silencers, which they're sneaking into reconciliation because they're claiming it's eliminating a tax, banning states from regulating AI, cutting financial aid for colleges, cutting financial aid and funding for public schools, rural hospitals and nursing homes are going to close, home care for the chronically ill and the disabled is going to become impossible under this bill. It's literally going to starve children in America.
That's
So
right.
we can give, literally, like you said, the 0.01%, the Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez's of the world, more money. So what are we even doing here, Catherine?
I mean, it is such, they're like cartoon villains. So it's
Yes.
really hard to take in because it's like, surely that's got to be hyperbole. I mean, it could not be that bad. It is that bad. And the list of small things that are tucked in there, you named some of the highlights, but they also completely defund Planned Parenthood. And what does that mean? It means that you are now taking away 600 clinics that are not providing abortion services, but they are providing cancer screenings, infertility treatments, contraception, routine reproductive health care for women. especially in areas where there is no other option. And they're saying, we don't like Planned Parenthood, and so we're going to close those too. It's
Yeah.
nothing to do with abortion. It is everything to do with making it so difficult for women and moms to find health care. So you're going to take away Medicaid, and then you're going to take away Planned Parenthood and the 2 million patients that rely on Planned Parenthood, which are, again, predominantly rural women and women living in very low serviced areas, away the only option they have. And you combine that with the OBGYN crisis we have, especially in states with abortion bans, and it is just a deadly, toxic stew for women in this country.
Yeah, I know that was your amendment. Of the 587 amendments, I think that striking that provision that would defund Planned Parenthood was your amendment. And I think that's the thing. Like, there are so many things in this bill that the Democrats are trying so hard to say, how about this? How about we change this? How about we don't do less cuts on billionaires? People making $1 billion. Let's just
Yeah,
they don't get a tax cut. And the
yeah,
Republicans are like, no, can't agree to that. You know what I mean? Like, it is a ludicrous thing that we're doing. And I want to be really clear that you aren't being conservative. If people say, well, some people are being very conservative and they want to support this bill, the Republicans are adding to the debt. They're
that's
adding to
right.
the deficit with this bill. This is not a
That's right.
conservative bill. Like, even if you cut all the social programs, it's still, and you throw everyone off their insurance and you close all the Planned Parenthoods and you make sure old people can't get their Meals on Wheels, they're still going to add to the deficit. So any classic conservative, any budget hawk, any fiscal conservative is kidding themselves if they think that this is their party anymore, because that is not conservative. They
That's
are
right.
adding to the problem. And I know this party is going to spin it in a million ways. They're going to say they're getting rid of waste and fraud, but that's not what they're doing, right? Like, you look at something like Medicaid, it's audited all the time. There's not much waste there. You know who keeps failing their audit and can't explain where their money went? The Department of Defense. But they are adding to that budget,
We're
right? So
adding over there.
they're adding there. So that doesn't make any sense. We have just decided to prioritize rich people making more money over poor people eating. And we need to be really clear about that.
Yeah, that's it. And it truly is hard to take in, but we
Yeah.
have to be really clear about it. And we have to repeat it over and over, because it is healthcare, it is food programs, predominantly the SNAP program, and it is all about these tax cuts. And it's all about making the winner's circle so small. And it doesn't include anybody who is trying to raise their family, make ends meet. And it is a huge transfer of wealth from the 99% of people that go to work every day, try and play by the rules, hope they can feed their families, have a house over their head, maybe take a vacation once a year. Not too much to ask for. And yet, that is what Donald Trump ran on. And this is an absolute betrayal.
Yeah. They're trying to make the winner's circle smaller and smaller and
Yeah,
smaller and smaller. And we're not just talking about, like, I want people to understand this is not just the poor that will get hurt.
no,
If you take away from Medicare, you don't need to be on Medicare for that to hurt you. It's going to hurt all rural hospitals. Urban hospitals, it's going to hurt. If you
right,
close Planned Parenthood, it's going to hurt you. If you take away money from financial aid, you could be making a ton of money, but you still get financial aid for your kid to go to college because college has suddenly become $90,000 a year. You might not get that anymore. Like, my kid is about to go to college. I was like, oh God, like,
right,
if there's no FAFSA, like, how am I
right.
supposed to afford for him to go to school? That is also in this bill. Like, people have to understand, and the Republican Party does not need Democratic votes to pass this. It is going through what's called budget reconciliation. Am I correct in that?
That's right.
So they just need a simple majority in the House and the Senate. We know that Donald Trump is ready to sign this. But the only reason it's held up right now, which is giving you this opportunity, the Democrats the opportunity to say this amendment, this amendment, this amendment, is because the Republicans themselves can't agree on that. Now, why is that?
Well, we have two factions. One that says this isn't really good for people at home, that I have these cuts to Medicaid, but we're really going to focus on state and local taxes and that tax exemption. Very important in states like California, very important in states like Massachusetts. But why don't we work on a tax reform package that actually has everybody paying their fair share? instead of what we have here, which is just a repeat of the utter failure of 2017 and locking in for high wage earners, their taxes are going to be permanent. For the rest of us, we get 4 years and then they all expire. And good luck to us. So they can talk about all these wonderful things they've added, like tips and overtime, which all have some problems. But as concepts, Democrats would be happy to work with them on that. But those all expire soon. Everyone else's are permanent. So you sort of have those moderates who have a lot of concerns about the pressure they're getting at home over Medicaid and SNAP, but have really settled in on state and local property tax deductions. And then we have the Freedom Caucus, who says none of this is enough. None of this is enough. We have to do more pain, more cuts. We have to make all these cuts to Medicaid hit earlier and hit in a profound way. And we're going to make a lot of ideological points as we go, Planned Parenthood being one example. And that is not what they're supposed to do under this budget reconciliation process. And they may get caught up in some of that later on when it heads to the Senate. But the whole point of this process is to avoid the filibuster in the Senate. So they don't need to find 10 Democratic votes. They can just proceed on a simple majority. So Democrats have been clear. We have now voted on this twice already. When they get this, if they get this together, this will be our third time, that we are not giving them a single vote. You want to do this? You want to do this to the American people? Then it will be without Democrats. And we're going to do everything in our power to stay on this message and help unpack this and translate it through the stories of the real impacts of the moms who are calling my office, coming to my town halls, who are terrified. And we got accused so many times today of fear mongering. It's not fear mongering when people don't understand what will happen to their child who needs the aids that Medicaid pays for to survive the day, And you're saying, oh, well, let's not get excited about that. Is this for some war effort, for some huge thing we're coming together as people to do, and we got to sacrifice to put it together? People could get behind that. But tax cuts for the extremely wealthy, it is perverse and it is obscene.
Yeah, it's completely obscene. And honestly, like, there are a couple Republicans that seem to be upset about how it adds to the deficit. But most members who aren't signing on right away is because they want deeper cuts. They want
That's
it
right.
to be more cruel. They want to start hurting people quicker. They're not even being politically expedient about it because they want the cuts to come faster, as you said. And some people are like, let's just wait so they're not there for the midterms. You know what I
That's
mean? They're
right.
like, do it now, kill everyone now. And I feel like, here's the thing. To me, it feels like it's not only political suicide, because if you hurt this many people at once, if you take away this many people's food, my grandmother-in-law,
Right.
she gets Meals on Wheels. If you take her food away, that will upset the whole family, right? Like, we're like, oh God, well, we
Right.
have to juggle and change this. It's going to affect the entire country. And like you said, there's not a single Democrat voting for it. So this really will sit on the shoulders of the Republicans. But it feels like, does no one care about getting reelected? Because this is the worst thing you could do. I watched a reporter follow Congresswoman Miller Meeks yesterday, and they were asking how she could vote for a bill that would throw 67,000 people in her district off their health insurance when she only won her district by 800 votes. And she literally ran away from the reporter, right? And then I was listening to David Rothkopf this morning talk about it, and he was saying it's not just political suicide. It's like a murder-suicide pact, because what the Republicans are doing will not only be terrible for their reelection, and I'm concerned if they think they don't have to get reelected,
Yeah.
but it's also going to kill a bunch of Americans. Like, I'm not being facetious about that. I'm not being
That's
over
not
the top.
exaggerating.
No, it's not exaggerating. Like, I really want to defunding Medicaid, cutbacks to cancer research, cutbacks to health and human services, cutbacks at the CDC, cutbacks on testing of our food and water and drugs, getting rid of COVID vaccines, cutting women's health care, ending programs that feed the elderly and starving children. Like, people will die. We cannot pretend this isn't real.
That's right. That's right. This is going to take lives. There's just no way around it. And it's going to drive up costs for everybody. You cannot take Medicaid away and have people then no longer be able to access primary care, any kind of preventive health care, show up at ERs when their diagnosis has been missed and it's very expensive to treat them, and then say, oh, this won't impact private health insurance. Of course it will.
Of course it will.
Everybody's premiums are going to go up. This will stretch Medicare. I mean, all of it is just so incredibly short sighted. And it's all about not stepping out, so afraid to step out and have Donald Trump, focus on you. But at some point, you got to find some friends on the other side of the aisle that say, you know what? I'm not coming to Congress to do this. This isn't why I ran. I really don't believe there's any person who ran and said, I want to take health insurance and food away from our hungry veterans and kids. I don't believe there is, but they are so wound around. Maybe there are, but
I'm like, I don't know,
there may be a
Catherine.
few. But for most of them, it is just about this allegiance to Donald Trump that I get is fear based, but you ran for this office for a reason. And if you won't stand up to this, there is nothing you won't stand up to. And also tucked in there, I mean, we've got a tax on due process and the rule of law, and that is all in there as well. Putting in provisions that say federal courts cannot enforce contempt orders. I mean, it is such a get out of jail free card to this administration that cannot believe that our courts are actually abiding by the law and not abiding by Donald Trump. And they're so angry about this fact that we actually do have a constitution and it does mean something to people, that they are trying to even use this terrible, big, bad, ugly bill to influence the courts and put unconstitutional restraints on their power. It is one outrage after another. And to cap it all off, we don't even really know what the final bill is because they're still negotiating it. So we've had this hearing going on, and they're starting to get to the point where they're going to have to recess and just wait to find out what they're going to be asked to vote on. But
Yeah.
yet,
Well,
without reading it, they will all come in and vote yes.
that's just embarrassing, honestly, and it's such a shame for the American people. And it's hard to watch. I'm telling you, from the outside, you're in the inside. It is hard to watch from the outside. I have told my followers in my rants to call their Republican Congress members to tell them how outrageous this is, to tell them to vote no on this bill. But I know Trump is leaning on them, and I just want to make sure that people understand that the public leaning on their representatives actually does make a difference. What are your
It's
thoughts for the American people who are watching from the outside? What can we do?
Yeah, I mean, keep it all coming and just know that I know that people look at this and it just looks like a huge tug of war, and that there's, talking heads and just people, they don't know what to believe and facts are so different. You do know what to believe. There is no way that this is morally right, that this makes economic sense, that you take away healthcare and food for tax cuts for the wealthiest, all while driving up our deficit. That's
Yeah.
just wrong. It's just wrong on so many levels. But what is right is having people weigh in. It is the only way we meet this moment. And just know the power of your voice. It matters. We all log these calls, we respond to it. I know that members are freaking out about the number of calls they're getting and watching their poll numbers at home and just wondering what to do with it. So I just want people to know that it feels so like it's just going to happen and there's nothing they can do about it. We have the power is with the people in this country. And we may not win this vote, but we're going to win this battle. And we have to make sure that we believe in the power of people can make a difference and that government has to be responsive to them.
Yeah. So call your representatives, call the Republicans, show up at their offices, make sure they know you're paying attention, that this isn't just going to go unnoticed until you are suffering across the country, that we are going to notice it now before they've passed it and say that this isn't going to happen. Because I saw Trump say yesterday, say that nothing of substance will be cut from this bill. And I thought, yeah, nothing of substance for you and the ultra rich, but the rest of us, it's a lot of substance to us. So we need to make sure they hear from the rest of us. Thanks
That's
so
right.
much for joining us today, Katherine. Good luck. I know it's going to carry on. Stay the course, be
We will.
bold, and we need you in there.
Thank you. Thank you for
Thank you.
leading the charge out here.
The regular people, we're upset.
Yay!
Yay! Thank you.
Thank you.